Good morning, everyone. Thank you. So just to see your response time and how quickly you can react after one night. Welcome everyone to the TwinBrain Summer School 2.0. This year we put the title of Neuroscience of Movement, and then on the top of that we will be exploring brain dynamics in Parkinson's disease patients and related disorders. So whatever comes with neurodegenerative diseases, there will be lots of speeches connected also with Alzheimer's disease. So my name is Uroš Marušič. I'm coming from Science and Research Center of Koper, and very newly that's very good news. I can say this year that I'm coming also from the Slovenian Mobile Brain Body Imaging Lab, which we opened last year during the Summer School 1.0. So that there is some progress. I hope you can see that. You will see that in the next days, and I'll be presenting today with my team here. So just to start with, a couple of informations, and then after that I leave the floor to the excellent speakers that you'll see in a little bit from now. Okay, so what is the content for today? We are having, we'll briefly check what the TwinBrain project brings. Then what is the overview of the summer school? Everyone got this brochure, so keep following this program. And for those who are online, please follow us on social media as well, because there is where we are posting all the news. If there is any change, COVID related, or somebody is changing slightly his slides or her slides, we will let you know over there. Okay, so TwinBrain project. It's been approximately 3 years ago when we submitted that. From partners, it's only Klaus here, Klaus Gramann, but there are also partners from, so next to Germany, Switzerland and Italy. So this project is running now for 1.5 years, and we are basically in the middle, somewhere in between. And then so you'll see, so whoever follows our workshops and summer schools, you see that we had one summer school, this one is second, and then next year is our last one. So just to briefly introduce my team. Here, so these are only the official names on the project. The team is much larger, so I'll be introducing that in a bit. But as I said, my name is Uroš Marušič. I'm leading this project, and all the questions should address Manca. I'm kidding. So Manca Peskar, I think you know her by now, and yeah, she's waving at you. This is Katarina, Miloš, Benjamin, Carmen just entered, Tisa here, and did I forget anybody? I don't see you here, but perhaps they're running around, so you'll get to know them very soon. So this is the team. Some pictures are very old, they said, so we need to update them. But yeah, that's the team that it's kind of like running with the idea behind. So the Slowmobile was established, as I said, and here these guys, Alex Miladinovic, it was written, but he will be joining us in the next days. Masha unfortunately couldn't join. She is following us online, and also Cecile. Okay, yeah, now I see many faces here. Luca, you met yesterday, and Sasha as well, and there will be Radan Boštjan also coming here in the next days. I should mention that a big thank to Warehouse Collective, so the team who is streaming. They did an amazing job last week for the workshop. I hope they'll do the same during this week. So yeah, that's a very, very large portion of work that they are doing, and I hope you can see that here and through the online participation. So here we are, like the partner organization, Technical University of Berlin. Klaus Gramann is here. You know him. Bettina Wallace, unfortunately not. She's currently in Canada, but yeah, she's fully supportive of these activities. So you met her, I guess, last year, some of you, perhaps next year, next occasion. Christophe Michel from University of Geneva, he will be offering with myself like a new PhD position. So these are some news that are coming very soon. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to join us, and the same stands for Paolo Manganotti, who is a neurologist taking care of this translation of the knowledge into clinical practice. So he was supposed to be here, but I guess he's following us online, and Miloš and Alex will be joining us in the next days. Okay, so what are the activities of the TwinBrain? This is only one of them, right? So it's only the summer school, which is meant for the horizontal knowledge. So you will get a taste of everything we say, so a bit of, training-related paradigms, a bit of neurodegenerative diseases, a bit of brain imaging methods, so to get a bit more orientated in the field of neuroscience, of movement in general. But there are many other activities that are currently running, as you can see them on the board. So we had a very successful workshop last week. All the videos are currently presented and are still available on YouTube, and they will be soon on this channel. And there is also like the YouTube channel from BMobil, Berlin Mobile Brain Body Imaging Lab, where are also like the videos of our previous workshop, so that we had 1 year ago in Berlin. So please follow that, and you'll get the idea what we are doing a bit better. So workshops, as I said, are meant for the vertical knowledge, summer school the horizontal one. Okay, so what are the TwinBrain milestones, very briefly? So I guess you're not interested about the first ones, but a very important one was the opening of the SLOMobil, Slovenian Brain Body Imaging Lab. Some of you joined us last year when we were opening it. I guess many activities that are related now with the hands-on sessions are coming from our laboratory. So you'll see lots of equipment also from the lab here, and you can touch on those, do some hands-on sessions even afterwards. Okay, what's the idea behind? So that's kind of like a very old slide that's put together as a partner consortium. And as you can see here, the majority of knowledge that we have currently is related to the brain imaging methods that are that collect the data in static conditions. So you can either have a participant in a dark room, standing in front of the screen, measuring EEG, FNIRS, and other modalities, and then you say this is sort of. We try to understand how this movement is being related to a certain brain activity on background, right? Or you simply put participants into the fMRI scanner, and then you check it with a very good spatial resolution where which brain region was basically active during that imaginary or realistic movement. So what we wanted to do here is like move forward, right? Move from the static conditions towards dynamic ones, and basically assess what is going on in my brain right now while observing you, while doing this postural control, maintaining balance, or stepping aside. There are some obstacles that the team provided for me, so I need to be careful. And all that information is being processed in parallel while I'm speaking in my second language. So it's kind of like very complex system that works all the time, and with this technology we are able to understand it even better. So when you will be observing all these lectures, I hope you'll get this taste how or what's the idea behind, and Klaus Gramann is the first one who will introduce this mobile brain body imaging, which offers this opportunity to measure brain dynamics in basically everyday situations. Okay, so where are we now? As I told you, we are here. Very informative. And you will be, so if you are good enough and submit your motivation letter again, and you like the summer school this year, perhaps you can join also in the next one. And there are many other activities that I won't touch today, but they are running more or less smoothly, let's say. So what's the overview of the summer school? As I told you, you have the brochure here, and for the online participants, you can check it on our website. It was updated yesterday, and it's going to be updated, I guess, a little bit in the next days, just to give you like very, very fresh information. So there are some persons who got, unfortunately, infected, so they will be delivering through, so their lectures through online, okay? But we will let you know about that. Okay, so here we are, as I said, we are recording these sessions. So if you join the YouTube channel, if you subscribe to the TwinBrain EU project on the YouTube, you will be getting this news. And I encourage you, so if you log in with your names, so we can see for the online participation, whoever joined and how many of you participated here. So you will be getting also certificates for this summer school. So if you need it, then we'll check who was here present and for how long. Okay, so here we are. First of all, we need to orientate ourselves a bit. Where are we, right? So I guess you should know by now. But for the online participation, I think it's kind of like important to check where we are now, because it's super small country. Nobody knows about it. And it has the only one that has love in its name, so you can never exchange it with Slovakia anymore. So it's there, only 2 million population and really beautiful nature. So if you leave this coastal area, you can go also in the mountains. During the winter time, it's really nice to ski. So we're having many skiing resorts. If you have time, dive into some caves. Like you can, last year we were in Scotian cave. This year, I don't know. So we'll see, and then yeah, if you visit, I think it's a very nice canyon underground, so it's like the feeling you get, it's like being in the space sometimes. Okay, some skiing resorts, and of course some famous Slovenes, Slavoj Žižek, Tina Maze, Dragic, Kopitar, and you know, lots of Luka Magic, Doncic, and Roglic and Pogačar. The guys were asking me when we finished today to check the Tour de France, right? So I guess I put it for you. Okay, so yeah, just to introduce a bit, you weren't, or we weren't visiting my lab in Koper. So the Koper used to be an island, so that's like from 200 years ago. And now it looks like something like that. So it's a very, I think, small city, but very interesting to visit, because you can walk from one side to the other side in 10 minutes. And here's my, or our lab. So the facilities in the city center, and then Arena Bonifica, where the Slowmobile is currently, so it's here inside. Okay, so yeah, now we are in Piran. It's on a peninsula. I think some of you can recognize the place where we were yesterday, and I encourage you. So today we are having the keynote somewhere next to this location on the right side, you see on this picture, and for the rest who are joining us online, it's going to be streamed via Facebook, not via Zoom, via Facebook. So follow us on our Facebook webpage, and you will be getting real time, or real, yeah, we'll be streaming in real time this keynote presentation. Okay, who you are, right? So when we were putting together this idea, we said we would like to have here a multidisciplinary team. So students who are coming from the medical field, from the engineering field, from the psychology field. So there are students, as I see here, from the cognitive science, from neuroengineering, from yeah, movement science, kinesiology, physiotherapy, and neuropsychology. So it's kind of like a field that it's being basically, we need all this expertise if we want to work here. So this is kind of like a nice group of students here, and yeah, I think you'll get this why we are doing that, because we need all this expertise if you want to understand holistically what's going on while we move. Okay, we have 21 speakers from different countries listed here. I hope I didn't forget any of them. And then you can post into the chat where you're coming from. So for those who are joining us online, please post like just the country name in the chat, so we see. So last year we had like guys from India, from even Australia, and then later on from the States, because they joined us a bit later due to the time delay. But we are recording everything, so you will be able to check it later on. And so yeah, and then up to this morning, I just receiving information that somebody, or lots of students are registering, so are doing this registration form right now. We had it like 97 by this morning, so it's quite a nice number for the MoBI field in general. Okay, let's see what happens now. We have these modules. I will just read them through very briefly. Mobile brain body imaging, like it's the linking, we try to link the human behavior with brain dynamics, understand how the brain works while we move. Then tomorrow morning, we are starting with biomarkers of cognitive decline and dementia. So you will be also having these hands-on sessions using this low-density EEG system, and then the company showing us how they kind of like extract the information and say who can be having like at the moment mild cognitive impairment or the early stage of dementia, or you know some other biomarkers that Vojko, Martin, Rok, and others will present tomorrow. Then we are moving towards neuroplasticity after injury and neurorehabilitation. We have guys on the back, so Florian, Kevin, Bart, and Reza will be also like talking about the so attentional focus in the next session. So it's kind of like related, and we needed to mix a bit those sessions due to some traveling issues. But nevertheless, we are continuing with the multisensory integration and attention in aging and disease, and then we end up with exercise in the brain in health and disease. So I hope you'll get this holistic overview very soon. Career counseling is a session that we organize for you. So we will be trying to split you into different groups, and then you will be talking with different experts what was important for them to build up their career in academia, in industry, and so forth. So I guess it's really important for you also to get this aspect from the summer school, not only follow our theoretical and hands-on sessions related to the topic, right? Okay, and we have the keynote speaker, as I mentioned. So the registration was already done. Here we were yesterday, there were some paparazzi around, so we already have some pictures. And from yesterday, also some pictures above that. And just to tell you, we also post on Twitter, so feel free to do that and tag us like the TwinBrain EU project. Okay, so to start with, what is coming today? We're having 3 excellent moderators for today. They don't know yet that, but it's Klaus, Claudia, and myself. So who will be moderating BD sessions. I don't think we need that much moderation because everybody is very much experienced here, but you'll see that it's kind of like important that you get a taste of everything, and so everybody's following and getting the information needed. And also to trigger some discussion also through online chat. So my team is following the questions, and then we will be answering that shortly afterwards. Okay, I'll start with a short presentation, if I'm not too long already with this introductory speech. Then Klaus Gramann is coming after my presentation, and Anna will be putting the EEG on, so we will need a volunteer here, and you'll see how EEG works in like real time. Hopefully it works. It's our system, 128 channels, really complex, but still we will use a bit less of those channels, not to complicate that much. And then we have Claudia. She's here. She will be presenting cognitive motor performance in in virtual scenarios, yeah. And then there is also a movie coming from Robert, who unfortunately couldn't join us, so we will stream that for you now via short movie. And then, last but not least, Julian will present the measuring variability in human movement. So I hope you can get also a taste of that, how we measure this movement in general. If you want to dig more into details, you can check also the videos we had last week regarding the biomechanics, and we went into very single details of how we do that. Okay, the keynote lecture, really important notification right now. We are having it at 6:30, so we start at 6:30, and you need at least half an hour to get there. So, you know, start 5:30 or, you know, whenever you want, but be there on time. Ask our team where this location is, and it's called, if you see the church on the top of Piran, it's just next to it. It's attached basically to the church, so it's a super nice place. The streaming, once again, I'm repeating this because it's really important. It's gonna be live through this link, okay? Through the Facebook website. And if you click now, you will log into that and you'll get the live streaming right afterwards. Really interesting keynote speaker came from the States, University of Michigan, and he will walk us through the century of Alzheimer's disease. We were briefly talking yesterday what is new, and there's some exciting news coming about that disease, the specific disease. So feel free also to network with him, because I think that the most information that is currently available about this topic is coming from his side. So yeah, I'm very happy to have him here. Okay, then tomorrow, as I said, just briefly, we are digging into biomarkers of neurodegenerative diseases. The first lecture, I wanted to say that, it's going to be online, unfortunately, but still online. And then we start with Vojko, who is here, cortical biomarkers, and then we continue with Rok and Yuri, but there is Tisa and, sorry? David, yes, who will be assisting also with the hands-on low-density EEG. Okay, then Thursday, we have like the cortical adaptations after musculoskeletal injuries. Florian, you met yesterday. Then Bart will be presenting about physical and mental fatigue. And then we go into the hands-on sessions. So Duško is coming from Bosnia and Herzegovina, and he will be talking about bio and neurofeedback. So you will be having these devices here attached to you, so you can basically see how the skin conductance works, how the frontal EEG, how the EMG, how the skin temperature, breathing frequency, and all these sensors measuring autonomic responses are working. I guess you've heard about them, but he'll be coming here and showing you a real-life application. So also for the athletes who are preparing themselves for the session, how he trains them mentally, okay? Not physically, but mentally. Okay, so that's the session for Thursday. And on Friday, we also have like really interesting speakers. Reza is here as well, so attentional focus. So we have this motor learning process, and then we are touching some issues about how to use it and which one is more effective. Then virtual reality, you will be having here the system which is capable of measuring cognitive functions inside VR. So I hope you can try it yourself and be as a participant and see how fast you are and how accurate are your movements. So that's something that also Klaus uses in his lab, you know, implementing like VR with EEG and many other devices. So then we are moving towards the career counseling session, and Cecil got sick, unfortunately, but we will be finding a replacement for that. But anyway, you will be contributing to that session. Part of it will be inside and the rest outside. Okay, then we start, or we end up with the last session of this summer school, and it's about multisensory integration. Jeanette just informed me she landed in Germany, which is good. Hopefully there won't be any delays, and she will be here on Friday already with us. But she is a super powerful researcher from the States, where I visited like a couple of years ago, and she will be bringing her devices with her. So you were asked to provide your iPhone models, and she developed a multisensory integration app where you can test yourself using just your mobile phone. So if you didn't provide, if you have an iPhone, Sorry, it's only for the iOS. You can still tell us your model, and then you'll get this application, and you can do it some hands-on sessions. Okay, then we have Kevin. You met him yesterday as well. So some biosignals and in connection with robotics. Part of it, I'm stealing now his slides, I'm kidding, but I'll be presenting now in a bit. And then we have Valentina Bianco, who also contributed to the workshop, and she will be here with us on Saturday, joining already on Friday. So yeah, you'll be having this opportunity to discuss with her as well. And then we have the closing, and that's actually the program. So, as I said last year, I hope this bubble or this circle becomes larger, but that's not necessarily very good information for you. Why? Because if that's the knowledge, that's something that you don't know, and when you come to this point, you see, even larger circle around you that you don't know. So don't be frustrated because of that. We are often there as researchers, but this is the usual process, and we want to enlarge this circle of knowledge as many times as possible to see what is outside that we don't know, and that's what drives science in general. Okay, and here I came to my presentation of today. So I'll be just continuing. Perhaps we can even end up a bit earlier, and then Klaus can prepare his hands-on here. But in general, what I wanted to show you here in the next slides is why I did this introduction a bit now, but why, for those who are joining us right now, so why neuroscience of movement is important. So do you remember when you started learning cycling? How hard it was, right? Balancing, using like lots of skills that you needed to develop, and if we would put like the cap as this one on the top of your brain, we would see that your brain is going crazy about that, right? So it's doing a lot of effort just for the usual thing that you are doing now automatically, right? How is this possible, right? So we know now what are the processes behind, but how these processes are, or how complex they are, you start seeing when you start researching into that. And also, like here I put another slide or another picture. So we had lots of patients who are relearning different skills. So just like taking this pointer, and doing this movement, it's a very simple one, but for somebody after post-stroke, that when he needs to relearn that, it's really a challenging thing. So that's not everything, right? So when you start programming robots behind, and then you start seeing how this movement is, and I mean, this is unbelievable. I wouldn't believe it that's possible if somebody showed me, but it's Boston Dynamics, so I believe them. But yeah, it's super complex how to do that with robots, and also like then when you program all those loops, you see how complex these processes are, right? And that's everything our brain is doing for us, right? If we want to do that in real life, we need to train. We need to train a lot. So perhaps from the cortical regions, we go to the subcortical ones, and then this is more automated movement then, so you do it with less effort, we would say. But in general, then there are also some other cases, and that's what is our summer school about, right? So Parkinson disease patients, and also Alzheimer's disease, it's also one of the neurodegenerative diseases, but Parkinson disease is very specific for the movement disorders. Why? Because if you take a look to the basal ganglia, so this region, it's really important for movement in general, but if you screen it through the PET scans, you'll get like this nice picture here, and very symmetric basal ganglia, left and right. But what happens with the Parkinson's disease patients is usually we see this asymmetry. Okay, so not necessarily these patients will have any symptoms yet, but still the brain scans are showing that. In the States, I learned that you can pay at approximately 400 euros now to get this scan, and then you can see if in the future basically what is coming. Not this scan, but perhaps even for the amyloids, beta amyloids. So what are the symptoms of the Parkinson's disease? So you can usually see, and now we see these symptoms with our patients. So the early stage, it's being, covered, or you come with the unilateral tremor. So you see patients, having this unilateral tremor. There is some rigidity. They start moving slowly. So that's also bradykinesia. And then postural inability, instability, and gait disturbances. So this is something we summarize in this paper. So if you're interested into learning more, you can read it out. But there will be some lectures covering that topic as well. So how can we address these issues? So we know that the cognitive and motor loops are very interconnected in the older age. So we know out of our studies that if we train only cognitive functions, we can even improve mobility functions. If we improve and if we are active, then we kind of like on the other side influence brain health. So it's kind of like very, very much connected. But how can we measure that? One of the possibilities is simply like doing the thumb, and you say you have a patient who is walking up and down, and you say, this is good, this is too slow, your basically gait looks like, your step width is too width, or you have a really good postural balance during walking. So that's somehow the clinical assessment that you usually have. But then you can move towards some clinical assessments, so scales that you check every single detail, right, of the hip flexion, dorsiflexion, swing phase, and so forth, and then you point some points. Or you move to the very complex biomechanical assessments, and then you get a really complex graphics on the top here, and then you check during the gait phases what is going on. But still, we don't know anything about the brain, right? So the brain controls all these movements, and this complexity is being controlled by the brain itself. So the central nervous system in general. So how can we study that, right? So here are some subjects into different brain imaging techniques. And the general idea here is you need to pick your technique of choice. So I guess here you work with fNIRS, with EEG. Some of you have seen also fMRI scans, but that's more or less everything we were working with. And that's, our journey from very good temporal resolution and very bad spatial one, and then moving towards the other side where it's a very bad temporal resolution and very good spatial resolution. So if I take two extremes, as I mentioned before, right, the EEG would be the technique of choice if you want to measure very precise process into your brain when something was detected and being sent through your cortical spinal tract to the muscles. Very precisely in milliseconds, but if you want to see where was this happening inside your brain, then you need fMRI. Okay, and there are many other techniques that are in between, and this research is being now very much developed. So I hope to see some other technique very soon that will offer even better resolution, temporal and spatial at once. We're working on that anyway. So what I wanted to show you here, it's actually the idea of, okay, these slides are, okay, sorry. So what we did here 3 years ago in the hospital, we said we want to see how this movement works. So I always wanted to experience it on myself. So I said, okay, if they say that if you close your eyes and if you imagine that you're moving your lower limb, and then they say the same brain areas are active, is that true or not? What would you say? If you just think about movement, yeah, so that's actually a very, very well-known fact now. But now to see it by my eyes, we put participants into the fMRI scanners, and we said, okay, you do this dorsiflexion of the lower limb, and then you see this activity, and then if you do only the motor imagery of that, just imagining that movement, here is the same activity, and you see nicely that the motor cortex area is being activated, and it's kind of like, you know, a very precise activity that you get while just imagining that. And imagine now how many applications are coming out of this during the rehabilitation process, right? If you can trigger your brain and motivate your brain that it's still active while you are kind of like floating in the 0G while flying to Mars or Moon, or if you're just like lying in bed because you are injured, then there are several applications that are coming out of this. But can we really say that like just being in the scanner is something that represents our movement and how our brain controls this movement? You experience the, you know, the water outside, so sometimes, you know, moving this or doing this dorsiflexion inside the scanner would be similar to enjoying, I don't know, the sun in the ocean, or running, or, you know, just walking on a treadmill. So that was the idea. So our answer was, of course, no. It's not reflective of what is going on right now when we are moving. So this is the slide I took from one recent publication, where kind of like Klaus Gramann and other team from MoBI field, they tried to put it into different frameworks. So just as I told you initially, moving from the very dark, sterile laboratory settings and going outside, so to understand how this environment reacts, or how our basically central nervous system reacts, and then embodied cognition functions in connection with the in the outside environment. So how we do that? Here are some last slides that I have here. This is our current project. Where is Katarina now? Over there. She is walking here as our first subject. Up there, having 128 channels of EEG, having whole body kinematics, and having also high density EMG. So from her muscles, tibialis anterior, from left and right side, we are following the motor unit's firing rate. So we can somehow say, even from the outside perspective, you know, how the central nervous system controls this gait, just by observing the EMG activity. So the surface EMG of the muscle, so when you contract, you see some activity. On the top of that, I said we have the EEG and whole body kinematics, which looks like this. So that's not the nicest example of our patient, but you can see in real time that we are kind of like constructing 3D avatars and monitoring these biomechanical parameters in parallel. So very complex system with which we are trying to understand what changes in the brain of basically Parkinson's disease patients who was early diagnosed versus a healthy control. Okay, by the naked eye, as I showed you before, if you would be analyzing, or if the physiotherapist come here and then assesses like Parkinson's disease patients while walking, he would say, I don't see any differences between these two, so healthy and Parkinson's disease patients. But we think that from the cortical point of view, or also muscular activational patterns, there are some early biomarkers that can pop up, and then we can introduce them into the clinical settings. Okay, so what are we looking for? You will be hearing a lot of this during these speeches. So we, as I told you, perhaps taking just behavioral outcomes, it's not enough. Now you know that. We go into the biomechanics, neuromechanics, and then all sorts of biomarkers that you can extract, for instance, from EEG. So from this technology that Klaus is going to introduce, and Anna, you'll see that analyses that are coming afterwards can be like connectivity between different brain areas, connectivity between brain areas and muscular activational patterns. Then if you conduct an ERP, so event-related potential study, you'll see how to do that in basically real time, and then extract the information out. So you can see here about very precisely how these processes are being, you know, processed by your brain. And then with that, you can have some biomarkers, let's say the amplitude, how it's lowering, and perhaps checking how much of the cognitive reserve is still, was still remained while executing this cognitive motor task. Claudia published a very nice paper a couple of years ago, so that was 3 years ago, in which she showed that with the lifespan, you need to show or be aware about these changes. So when you're very young or very old, you know, your brain responses are changing, and not linearly, but they're having sort of like a U-shape or inverted U-shape, depending on the component you are observing here. So I think it's really important here to check that graphics, and you know with what kind of population you are dealing here. So it's not the same that you'll put the EEG cap on and then measure this brain activity, or measuring with fNIRS or fMRI, and then just comparing with normative values of healthy older adults, right? So these responses are changing through like while we age or while we develop, and then so keep in mind or bear in mind this information when I'm showing you the next 2 slides, and then I'm done. So these are like the recent 2 publications that we put together in our lab. It's still static EEG, but as I told you, what Claudia showed with the lifespan, how these amplitudes are changing using this ERP technology. Also, we observed like a very interesting phenomena while we age and while we train. So watch out now very carefully. So if you have a very simple visual motor reaction time task. So if you need to react on the blink, right, on the screen, nothing fancy. Would you be faster while reacting with your finger or with your foot? Or it's the same? What would you say? Just behaviorally looking at that. Finger is faster? Okay, you know that, but many studies, they just say that it's the same, so we observe the same. So the variability is higher, of course, when you perform it when you are, you know, older, but also like you are slower while responding by your foot in comparison to your finger. Okay, nothing new. But what comes from the aging perspective, these are 2 graphics, so showing, or if we focus only on the lower limb responses. So when we get the visual stimuli here, then it's kind of like the detection phase, and then we have some working memory processes and higher cognitive functioning that are occurring in the peak 200, and then there is somewhere here the response happening. Okay, so you detect this visual stimuli very fast, and then you respond on it. What's coming, or what is different if we compare like the 2 age groups? It's different that older are having larger responses, okay, larger amplitudes and delayed times. So they are slower, and they are recruiting more neural kind of like content or networks while executing the same amount of processing the same amount of information. And what we did here is that we were interested not only about the age-related changes, but also training-related changes. So if you train people, if you bring your elderly participants into the lab, and then you train them just mentally, they were executing just computerized cognitive training here, day after day, so 3 times per week for 2 months, and then we were assessing many motor cognitive abilities. You can see here like posture control, gait, speed, EEG, that's my granddad, so he's always there when we start to apply some new measurements. And what we found out, just briefly, is that you can modulate those amplitudes and those latencies. So just while doing the computerized cognitive training, these guys, elderly guys, were able to walk faster, have better balance, and also some executive control was basically being improved by that. So it's not that you apply computerized cognitive training only to train the brain functions and delay dementia, but you can also improve their walking abilities. Okay, so while they move through the space. And why is that? Because the walking, it's not super simple automated task, but you'll see it's super complex, and it integrates lots of different aspects behind. So what we were able here to show is actually that this peak 200 component was actually shortened So they were, we weren't influencing any early perceptual mechanisms here, but just the P200, and they were becoming faster in terms of like reacting on this visual stimuli. And also while responding by their food, the intervention group showed less effort doing that. Okay, they were faster, but they showed from the cortical perspective less effort. So somehow we were able, with the minimal motor input, increase their motor abilities. And that's something that I think is very valuable for somebody who cannot move or who's in hospital and cannot perform the physical training. So you can do this, all sorts of combinations. And all of that will be presented by these excellent speakers here. A taste of everything you'll get here. But what is kind of like really important here to deliver to you now is that each of us is publishing, I hope a lot, I can say that. So if you check our names, like all those speakers on PubMed, and then get an idea what we are working on, then we can also do this networking more efficiently, and you can get lots of information that weren't presented, for instance, here, but perhaps we worked with that topic as well. So with that, I leave you, train your brain while sitting here, right? So it's good not only for your cognitive functions, but also for, to move more efficiently. And then we'll make sure that, we cover also this movement during the breaks and after we finish each of the modules or each of the days. Okay, I thank you for your attention now. I was pretty much in time, so thank you for your attention. Feel free to ask questions. And Klaus, the floor is yours. Okay, I think you can, we decided to have like a more relaxed streaming, so while we are preparing that, during the workshop we put the graphics on, it was super fast changing, but here we will be doing it a bit more slower. I will be introducing you our next speaker after
5 minutes break.
5 minutes? Yeah, for sure.
Coffee for everyone.
Okay, I'll do that. Yes, we need to do some stretching, and we have excellent here movement science students, Spela, Benjamin, so they can perform some stretching for the whole group. But okay, let's do a 5-minute break and then we continue. Okay, it's good. Yeah, let's go out and grab a cup of coffee. Thank you.